G'day, AlexRJ here. Now we'll look at a constructor for our class. Now what does this mean? Well, you probably already used them without even noticing. For example, if we created a texture 2D equals new texture 2D, we are calling on the class, and we are creating an instance of that class and storing it in a variable. And now, when we go to populate that, these are the constructors. So we have 3 constructors for texture 2D. They can take in width and a height, a texture format and a map as well, and whether it's linearly lit or non. So this is what the constructors are when you are creating an instance of a class into a variable. So I hope that makes a little bit more sense. So we need to do that for our Perlin module. So I will say public Perlin module. This will be our constructor. So we could take in no parameters at all, and we could set in some default values. Let's start off. Let's say int size x, int size y. So at least give it a size. And then here we would say size x, the capital property version, because it will check for us if it's less than 0, equals size x, and the same for size y. Send it to the property so it'll check that it's greater than 0. Okay, then we have all our other variables as well. Our frequency, our octaves, our offset, linearity, our persistence. Okay, so now when we said, we can even test this out here, just like we did before. So we'll say our Perlin module, let's call it PM, equals new Perlin module. Now if we have a look, we have a constructor that can take in these 2 parameters. Alright. And these are our constructor. And again, I'll be linking some sources into the description, so please check them out and investigate further for yourselves. Alternatively, we could just take in a size. And here, because we already have the property size up here, we can send it that. And when we set it, it'll then send to the individual properties for each variable, check if it's greater than 1 for us. And there we go. So we say size equals size and set our other values to default. Okay, so you could go through and make every single function or every single constructor for every single variable we had. So we continue and so we could add another one here, size, float frequency, in octaves, etc., etc. For every single variable, you could create a separate function. That would be this octaves equals the same thing. This frequency equals the frequency parameter that's being sent. Okay? Now this actually covers most cases. Let's do a size x, size y again. Okay, so now if we go back and have a look So we have one just for the size, which is square, size x or size y individually. We have a size frequency octaves, or individual sizes frequency octaves. But we still have more variables to cover. So in these constructors, we can have some preset override values, so that if you didn't apply them, then it would get preset. Okay, let's try and find a better way to explain that. So what else do we have here? We have the offset, the linearity, and the persistence. We are checking if that value is not equal to 0, so we should send it to the property. So if we say vector 2, now there's a special case for an override on that, so we'll leave that for a bit. Float linearity equals 2f. I've already stated that by default, linearity equals 2. Okay, so let's have a look at our constructor working when we instantiate that class again. Our size, frequency octaves, and here we have it. So we could just say 512, 1 for the octaves, and it's not showing that constructor. And we'll say vector 2.0. Now we don't have to apply those last two values, they're already set at a preset, so we could cap off the function right there. Let's just save that and check. See, that's just because we've assigned it in our example, we're not using it anywhere. But there are no errors. So that kind of class declaration is perfectly valid. And then again, if we wanted to give our own value for linearity, we could say that and cap it off there. Leave persistence at 0.5. Same thing again, we get the warning that we're not using the variable, but it's perfectly valid. Now one thing to note is, once you have these, where are you? Once you have these overrides, we can't go in afterwards and say, we can't ask it to give us one afterwards. There we go, optional parameter cannot precede required parameters. Okay, so if we don't give it a value, it's required. These aren't required because they're given a default. So you can't do it that way around. Anything that you want to assign an optional parameter to, they have to be at the end. Alright, so now that we're declaring that here, we can say this linearity equals the linearity that's being assigned. And the same for the persistence. But we're sending it to the property because we want to check that it's not 0. I'm going to copy all that and place it in this constructor as well. Okay, now there's one more consideration with this offset.